You're listening to Montreal Now on CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, I guess we can start by talking about the announcement today, the decision to basically try to speed up court proceedings in this province. This has been an issue for years, and I know people say it's too late, it's too little, but it is something. What's your take on this?
Well, no, I think, the amount of time that I spend on here slagging the CAQ government when they do something right and something that is really overdue, they should be recognized for it. And when Simon Jolin Barrette, our justice minister, announced that certain powers will be given to justices of the peace, who are, essentially they're judges, but their powers are very limited. But they'll be able to preside over initial court appearances. They'll be able to preside over bail hearings, which if anybody, frankly, when I covered courts and you go into this basic, it's kind of zoo-like when you go in there, one suspect after another, especially on a Monday morning after a busy weekend. It's a huge time-consuming effort, and the calculation is that as many as 10 to 15 Quebec court-level judges will be freed up to actually hear cases. And this is what this is about. This is about being able to process cases more quickly within the parameters of the Jordan ruling, which basically means that you're not going to see cases get tossed out because they took too long, especially cases involving violence. So, yeah, what took so long? I have no idea, other than the fact that there seems to be a lot of gridlock. Gridlock seems to have been built into our justice system. And even though we have spent a lot of time talking about the state of the medical system and the state of the education system, justice was a very close third. And I'm glad to see something is finally being done to alleviate somewhat the issue, because if nothing else, the wear and tear and the inefficiencies of the existing system, we're shipping a lot of talent out of the public sector and into the private, where there was probably more money and less grief. And if this can turn that around a bit, I'm all in favor of it.
So I'm just curious, not knowing a whole lot about how this works, what were justices of the peace doing up until now? Like, what are they adjudicating?
Well, basically, you would have very, very low level that they could swear. I think they could swear out warrants. It's a very kind of interesting, position, because we have essentially three levels of courts, but a justice of the peace is kind of a judge at large, and you could swear out warrants with the justice of the peace. Clearly, you could get married; they could preside over weddings, but they were nowhere near. They were not a part of the system per se, and now here you are with them presumably sitting behind the bench. Hearing arguments for bail, getting people into the system. The initial thing is, if you get arrested, you have your initial appearance. Well, a judge has to hear all this, it has to be part of an official proceeding. And this was, as I say, it was very time consuming. But the people who were doing that were also expected to hear and reason and weigh evidence in very complex legal cases in some cases. And yeah, it was a crazy system. The other thing apparently that was announced today is they will be using video conferencing far more. So essentially, you could be, as Jean-Laurent Barrette put it, you could be arrested in Sherbrooke, appear via video conference in front of a judge in Drummondville and a court clerk in Montreal. And this would still count, as opposed to saying, well, no, it's got to be done in the jurisdiction where the guy got picked up.
So this does seem like, this actually seems pretty good.
Oh, it's good. It's overdue. And my God, for one, it's nice every now and then on this show to talk about something and go back to
exactly, yeah. All right. Speaking of making sense, you're suggesting that what we're seeing in the National Assembly right now, not making a whole lot of sense either. It's getting kind of nasty. I thought is this all about the private donations being made, or something else going on? That's
the trigger for it, Aaron. But what's happening here? And here's a delicious irony, because I've said that Faustin Pierre Plamondon, head of the PQ, clearly has Francois Legault's number. He knows what gets under his skin, and he has been saying now that he has been criticizing the CAQ's very aggressive partisan nature, and he's 100% right to do that. But he's also having fun with it as well, because if they're even more aggressive and partisan than usual, it's because they're having their lunch eaten by the PQ, led by Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. And you and I were talking on Friday about an incident that occurred on Thursday between Geneviève Guilbeault, the transport minister, and the PQ's Pascal Bérubé. They were having an exchange that got picked up by camera. She was, trying to say, listen, you should talk. You're going after us for fundraising, having cabinet ministers at cocktails. You did the same thing, at which point he zinged her back, because I may have had one. Do you want me to talk about the 42 that you've done? But the next day, here's Vincent Marissal, who's also been complaining about the fundraising. He's an MNA for Quebec Solidaire, and he's going through the hallways. He's not in the National Assembly per se. He's not in the Blue Room. He's just walking through the hallway, and here comes Francois Legault, who goes, "Oh, look, it's the National Mudslinger."
Oh.
Now, it doesn't, I just say it like that, and people are going, why? Well, what are you freaking out? Well, listen, you know what? You're there to oppose. You are there to hold the government to account. And believe me, this fundraising story just gets worse and worse with each passing day. But if somebody's getting up in your face, sort of when you're off duty, when you're in transit, there's a very dangerous precedent being set here. And Saint-Pierre Plamondon mentions, he uses a word which I think, doesn't get that much, how can I put it, doesn't have that much credence anymore. But the idea is one of respect. If you're not respecting your opponents, if you're not respecting your fellow legislators, how do you expect the public to respect you and what you do? And I know it sounds kind of like, oh my God, it's an after-school special, but no, this is for real stuff. It's tough enough for people these days to have any faith in what's going on up in Quebec City or in Ottawa. When you add this kind of really low-end, high school, juvenile idiocy, you're not helping anyone's cause. And in fact, if Francois Legault thinks that by bullying, I know he bullies a lot of people. He's bullied Muslim women. He's bullied Anglos. If he thinks by bullying the opposition and bullying his fellow politicians, his fellow MNAs in the National Assembly, he's going to score points, I think he's going to succeed in achieving the precise opposite. But unfortunately, I don't think he'll get the message. I don't think he's going to change his ways. But believe me, he's not doing himself any favors. He's not doing his government any favors. And he certainly isn't doing the people of Quebec any favors when he's behaving this way.
Let me take one last shot at this, because I'm going to make this my question of the day, Jim, in just a sec. And that is the fiasco over the ArriveCan app. We heard the Auditor General today. What's your take on this?
But this is a perfect example of the kind of detachment, I won't necessarily tar Quebec with this same brush, although I'm sure there's an example there somewhere. But certainly when it comes to the feds, the left hand, it doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Even if it did know, it wouldn't care. We're talking about, and when you have the Auditor General turning around saying, you know what, I know this is bad, but I can't tell you really how bad it is because no one seems to have written anything down. And we're talking about tens of millions of dollars, Aaron. Back in the day, this would have caused the government to fall. But you know what? With this particular regime, it's just another day at the office.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
That's the man.